Source Nation. You're listening to Sports Tuesday with Steve Manderson.
Welcome back to Sports Tuesday. I am Steve Manderson. For tonight in the spotlight is the legendary Hall of Famer Jackie Robinson. This is the 4th annual tribute to Jackie Robinson's show. And I have Ian Kahanowitz on in the first hour, and have him back on in this hour, and to further talk about Jackie Robinson. And also, let me bring on both Ian and his buddy, baseball historian Ron Rabinovitz, who was one of Jackie's closest friends. Let me bring them both right now, Ian and Ron.
How are you, Steve?
All right, and let me welcome back to Sports Tuesday, Ron Rabinovitz. Ron, how are you?
Good, Steve. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine. Always a pleasure to have you back on the show, especially in historic day coming up this weekend, Jackie Robinson Day. So it's always great to have you.
Thank you.
Yeah. And now that I have you both on at this time, Source Nation, I was reminding them that you two guys were on the very first tribute show. You guys inspired me to continue to do this. And so I'm so glad to have you guys back again, reunited.
Thank you.
Ron,
Ian, how are you?
We're doing good, Ronnie. How are you doing up there in Minnesota?
Good, buddy. Good.
Always good to have you. And you know, Steve,
cool.
Steve, when you talk to Ron Rabinovitz, you get living history. Because I want to first tell everyone to go to ronrabinovitz.com, because you get a snapshot. You get a snapshot of what Ron had done. His website is very good. And in addition, the good thing is, like me and Ronnie, we have time to go out and speak in public places and stuff. So I want to tell you listeners, you want to hear about Jackie? Ronnie spoke in colleges and businesses. His story is universal. It's a universal love story during a time period that really wasn't so universal. And I'm plugging for Ron because his story is so important. A book has to be written about this. A play was written about this, and it is such an amazing story. And for me to sit here and share it with you and your listeners, it's really, truly an honor.
Thank you.
Yes,
Ian.
it
I
is.
appreciate that. Thank you.
Well, I tell you, it's an honor to have you both on a historic time. And right around the beginning of baseball, which is the good part about this, the celebration. Now, Ron, I asked Ian this, and I usually ask this question to you every year at this time. Now, the Jackie Robinson Day, more and more people are experiencing what Jackie Robinson Day is all about, the day in which every major league player that day will be playing baseball wearing the number 42 on their back. And now there's a statue of Jackie Robinson outside of Dodger Stadium. And do you see this special day one of the top holidays in all of sports?
Yes, I do, Steve. I think it's a tremendous tribute to him. Jackie did so much for this country and for the world. They say Babe Ruth changed baseball. Jackie Robinson changed America, and he did it alone. There was no civil rights movement. There was no Rosa Parks. There was no Martin Luther King at the time. Martin Luther King was a teenager. He was in college. And I was out in Los Angeles a couple of years ago, and Larry King told me the first time he interviewed Martin Luther King, he introduced him as the founder of the Civil Rights Movement. And Martin Luther King stopped him and said, Jackie, Larry, I have to correct you. I'm not the founder. Jackie Robinson was. It's a great tribute. And
that is.
What I try to focus on, Steve, is so many things that Jackie did after he retired from baseball. A lot of people know that he was the African American first baseball player, and he broke the color line in baseball and all of that. But I try and focus on some of the things that he did after baseball. To mention just a few, he used to go down to the South and help rebuild churches that were burned to the ground in the South. He started a bank called the Freedom National Bank because other financial institutions were elevating interest rates for African Americans, and he started this Freedom National Bank. He started a construction company that helped build homes for African Americans and other minorities. So he did a lot of things. He was really a forefront in the civil rights movement and also equality for everybody. And I attribute my dad to a lot of this. My dad's ideals were unbelievable. He was a lawyer in Sheboygan, Wisconsin, later a federal judge, and he was fighting segregation before they even knew what the word segregation was. He was always speaking out for the underdog. He tried to make things better for all, and everyone was important, whether it was a common laborer or a salesman or a president of the United States. He treated everybody the same. And I learned so much from him about that. And that was one of the things I learned from him and also what I learned from Jackie. The lessons of diversity and inclusion and some of the things that he went through. The hurdles that he leaped, it was just unbelievable. And it took its toll on him. Jackie died as a young man. He was 53 years old. But he was not doing it for himself. He was doing it for his people and for other minorities. And as you look back, you see what this man endured. Now, I know many people have seen the movie 42.
Right.
The saddest part of 42, they had to keep it PG-13. So all the abuse you saw there was 100 times worse than that. 100 times worse. And that's what made me very sad when I saw that movie, because people were only seeing a smidgen of what he went through. It was horrible. Black cats rolled on the field, couldn't eat in a restaurant with his team, couldn't sleep in a hotel with his team, cat calls, calling him the N-word, beating him, spiking him. I mean, anything they could to get him to fight back, and his hands were tied. He had promised Branch Rickey he would not fight back, because that's what the bigots wanted. They wanted him to fight back, and there'd have been a riot or something. They just said, see, he's nothing but trouble. Get him out of here. So he was really the beginning of everything. And if it was up to me, I'd have a Jackie Robinson Day, national holiday. Of course, it's not up to me. But
so, well, you know what though, it may come to that. It may come to that one day. You never know. You never know.
I would hope so.
Because every year, it seems to have more. Jackie Robinson Day creates more and more interest. More and more, it grows more and more in popularity because we have today's youth that still needs to learn about what a great man he was and everything.
Right.
And so eventually it will. I mean, look how long it took to have Martin Luther King Day to be a national holiday.
Exactly.
I I predict that one day it will Jackie Robinson Day will be a national holiday as well. Now,
I hope it's in my lifetime.
yeah, right. You never know. You never know. You and Jackie had a special relationship.
Yes, we did.
Especially you as a child. Tell us about that.
Well, I met him when I was a little boy. I was growing up in Sheboygan, Wisconsin, and my dad used to tell me stories about him. My dad loved the Dodgers because they gave Jackie an opportunity to play Major League Baseball. So he said to me one day, he said, "How would you like to meet him someday?" And I said, "Boy, would I love that." And unbeknownst to me, he had written Jackie a letter and told him how much I admired him. And Jackie wrote back with an autographed picture. And he said next time the club's in Milwaukee playing the Braves, he would love to meet me. At that time, the Atlanta Braves were the Milwaukee Braves. And we went to a Dodger-Brave game. And, Steve, it was the first game I was ever at that I couldn't wait for it to end because I knew what was going to happen later. I was going to meet this guy, and I was so excited. I was just thrilled. And I used to go down. We used to get there early for batting practice. And I remember that first time I'm standing by the Dodger dugout right by the gate, watching him out in the outfield. And it's like, there he is, number 42, And it was so exciting. So when the Dodgers, there were a lot of kids at the locker room waiting for ball players. It takes 45 minutes to an hour before they come out after their showers and interviews. So all these kids are standing around, and any Dodger that came out, they ran. Not me. I stood like a wooden soldier. I was waiting for one guy. And when he came out, I ran up to him with about 50 other kids. And I said, "Jackie, I'm Ronnie Rabinovitz. You remember me?" And he says, "Sure I do." And my dad's standing over my shoulder. He says, "Sure, Jackie, with the thousands of letters you get, how would you remember?" And he said, "Your dad wrote me on lawyer stationery." My father was an attorney. And that was the beginning of it. And then he said to me, "Stay in touch." And I said, "Oh, my God, he wants to hear from me." So I wrote him a letter. Jackie Robinson, Stamford, Connecticut. No address, no zip code. He got it. He sent me a letter, Ronnie Rabinovitz, Sheboygan, Wisconsin. No address, no zip code. I got it. And this is how it all started. And, I mean, I had all these handwritten letters from him. I mean, they're just beautiful letters. And so wise and so smart. And many times we had dinners together and lunches. And he was at my 10th birthday party in Milwaukee. It was a great day. I'll never forget it. Jackie, it was my 10th birthday. We're at the ballpark, and Jackie hit a home run. And as he rounded third, he waved to me like, "That one is for you." Then afterwards, when he came out of the locker room, he hopped in our car, and we went to this restaurant, a nice restaurant in Milwaukee. And he was there singing happy birthday to me. It was probably the greatest birthday I ever had. I was so excited to have him there. And the poor guy, there were people in the restaurant that wanted autographs, and he gave him autographs. He probably couldn't even eat all of his, he didn't have time to eat all his food. But we enjoyed his company so much. He was such a terrific guy. And,
now,
it was funny.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. No, you please.
At the ballparks, once you guys had established a relationship and you were going to the ballpark on a regular basis, the fans, the people in the stands, at one point did they actually recognize who you were and what you meant to Jackie? Did they realize who Jackie was pointing to after a home run? And
after a while they did. Well, because we kind of sat in the same seats near the Dodger dugout on the third base side in Milwaukee, and we always had pretty much the same seats. And I mean, he would come over and they used to play a game called Pepper. It was a little game that they'd play, where they'd hit the ball and field it right near the dugout, not too far away from each other. And every once in a while, he'd flip a ball over to me. And it was like, I'd run to my dad. I'd say, my God, I got a ball here from Jackie. So, but I mean, that's the type of guy he was. And he had to take batting practice and he had other things to do, but yet he would come over to the fence where I was standing and chat with me a little bit.
How did the fans feel about that? How did the fans feel about that at that time where, with fans just getting used to the idea of a African American playing playing Major League Baseball for the Dodgers, and still a lot of resentment and hatred there. Were you the target of abuse, even though you were with your father at that time at the ballpark?
Not really, because remember, I met him in 1953. He came into the game in 47. I was 2 years old at that time. So in 53, already Hank Aaron, the Milwaukee Braves had an ABC outfield, all African Americans. Hank Aaron, Billy Bruton, and Wes Covington. ABC. Aaron, Bruton, and Covington. So but you know what? I saw a lot of prejudice anyhow. There was a particular time in Milwaukee where he had a bad game. He had struck out 4 times. And he was frustrated with himself. The last time he struck out, he kind of was mad at himself, and he kind of flung his bat back toward the dugout. And unfortunately, the bat sailed on him, hit the top of the dugout, went into the stands. So this woman claimed that she was hit by the bat. And he felt terrible. He actually took a cab to her home that night to apologize in person. And she didn't want anything to do with it. She got a lawyer. She was going to start a lawsuit. And we got back to Sheboygan, which was only about 45 minutes an hour away. And the phone rang, and it was Jackie. He says, Ronnie, let me talk to your dad. My dad got on the phone. He told him what happened. And my dad said, let me see what I can do. So it turned out that the lawyer that she had hired was a good friend of my dad's. And it turned out that the bat never hit her. It hit the railing in front of her seat, but never touched her. But because she didn't like African Americans, she wanted to have trouble. And and of course, everything came out that way. It was dropped. And I thought, how terrible that anybody would want to do that to him. It was just horrible. And I felt so bad for him that happened. So that was my first experience with prejudice with him. Certainly not in any degree that he had. And then there was one time he was coming after he retired from baseball, Steve. He used to come back to Wisconsin every once in a while. He was very active with an organization called the National Conference of Christians and Jews. And he would also come back for sports banquets and other functions. And he would let us know when he's coming. And we would meet him, and we would spend either the weekend with him or the afternoon or the evening, whatever it was. And we met him in Manitowoc, Wisconsin, which is a small town north of Sheboygan. It's between Sheboygan and Green Bay, right on Lake Michigan. And he was speaking there, and we had made arrangements that he was going to stay at our home overnight and speak to my high school the next day. And I was so thrilled. I thought this was going to be so exciting. So a couple of weeks before this, my dad's out on the front lawn with me playing catch. And our neighbor walked in. My dad says, Ben, he says, Jackie Robinson's going to be staying in our home. He says, you mean to tell me you'd let Jackie Robinson sleep in your house? My dad said, of course I would. I'd love to have him build a house next to me. And Ben said, I sure wouldn't. And my dad looked him straight in the eye and he said, you know, Ben, I don't think that would be the real question. I think the real question would be whether Jackie Robinson would want to live next to you. And he pointed his finger at him. And I thought, that away, Dad, give it to him. Dad, isn't that something?
That's funny.
So it turned out we got to Manitowoc, and he couldn't come back to Sheboygan. He had a business meeting or something came down that he had to get back to New York. And I felt terrible. I was so sad. And he was sad, too. He really felt terrible because he was looking forward to it. So we gave him a ride back to the airport. And I'm sitting in the back seat with him. And sitting on his lap is this key to the city of Manitowoc, a big wrought iron key that was presented to him by the mayor of Manitowoc with red, white, and blue ribbons on it. And he turns to me and he says, Ronnie, will you keep this for me? And I thought, oh, my God, that's so terrific. So, of course, I took it. And we got back to Sheboygan. And someone had spray painted a sign on my father's law office that said, Rabinovitz is bringing niggers to Sheboygan. And I started to cry. And my dad, my mother, my sister, and I got out of the car. We got rags and brushes and soap and a pail of water, and we scrubbed it all down. And I was just sick to my stomach that anybody would be so cruel. But it happens, you know.
Yes,
Horrible.
it does. Yes, it does. Now,
but again, it was nothing compared to what he went through.
Yeah, that's a good point. That is a very good point. But now, did you bring any of the letters with you?
I did. I'll read you a couple if you don't mind.
Yeah, yes, go ahead.
This was a letter after the Dodgers had traded him to the New York Giants. And, of course, he decided not to play for the Giants, and he retired. And I remember when I heard this, and I just burst out in tears. How could they do this to him? And I wrote to him, and he said that his own son, Jackie Jr., was crying. And he assured both of us that everything would be okay. And he says, my friend Ronnie, thanks so much for your nice letter. I was expecting to hear from you and was so glad you did write. I, too, felt badly, Ronnie, but you will understand soon why I wasn't too disappointed. The Giants are closer to my home, so it is a break in that respect. I am glad to hear that you lost some weight, Ronnie. It works too much of a hardship on a person when he carries too much, so keep it up. I know it will make you feel much. Tell your father, I'm sorry about Stevenson, but I am sure we would have fared much better had not the war interfered. Here he's writing a beautiful letter to me. And Jackie was a Republican at the time. He was a Rockefeller Republican, who today, Steve, I think would be a Democrat. They'd thrown him out of the Republican Party, Rockefeller, because he was very liberal. And but in all these sweet letters he'd write to me, and then he'd say, by the way, tell your dad this or that, you know. And then he'd say, I don't know why I wrote that. I guess it's just my way of saying hello to you. So finishing the letter, he says, again, Ronnie, thanks for the letter. It's friends like you that keep our morale up. Say hello to your mother and your sister also. I am sure we will see each other soon again. Perhaps you could come visit sometime if you're ever coming this way. Always, Jackie. Beautiful letter.
That's fantastic. That is great. I'll tell you, you probably was the hottest kid on the block, and in school,
I was.
When they kill other kids on our head, you're getting letters from the one and only Jackie Robinson. That is something else. You're a hero. You probably was a hero in the school. That is fantastic.
And I brought these letters to my teachers and to my friends. The first time I got a letter, Steve, my friend, I said, I got a letter from Jackie Robinson. Yeah, sure, I got a letter from Donald Duck. They'd say, and I'd pull out the letter, and they'd say, oh my God. And one would say, Ronnie got a letter. Here, take a look at it. Look at this. And I mean, I brought it to school for my teachers. I wanted all my friends and family and everybody to be part of this. Many times we took friends of mine to a ball game to meet Jackie. It was. I didn't want to just keep it for me. I wanted to share it. I wanted people to see what a wonderful man he was. I had an experience. I was in second grade, Steve, and I was on the playground one day, and a friend of mine and I were playing. And he comes up to me and he says, I can't see you anymore. I can't talk to you anymore. I says, why?
Right.
He says, because you're Jewish. I went home that night. I was just devastated. I mean, he didn't hit me, he didn't spit at me. He just told me he wouldn't talk to me anymore. And I liked this kid. And that night, my father went over to his parents' home and had a long talk with them. I wasn't there. I don't know what was said. But the next day, we were able to play together again. And we became the best of friends. And his name is Johnny. And Johnny still lives in Sheboygan. We're still the best of friends. We still talk many times a year. His parents got to know me. They loved me. I loved them. It was just ignorance. They had never met a Jewish person. They had never met an African-American person. Sheboygan at the time was lily white. There were no African-Americans there. So I took Johnny to meet Jackie Robinson in Milwaukee. I have a picture with him standing next to Jackie, and he became his hero too. And it's such a good lesson that you can't judge people by their color of their skin or their religion, their race. It doesn't work that way. Sure, there are jerks that are African American. There are jerks that are Jews. There are jerks that are everything. But doesn't mean that the whole race, if they're good people, they're good people. And it's such a simple thing, and people complicate it, It's terrible.
That's a good point. Now, Dodgers win the World Series in '55.
Yes, they did.
Did you and your dad attend any World Series games?
No, we didn't. Remember, it was in New York and in Brooklyn. But I watched every minute of it. I skipped school. I used to take a transistor radio to school and listen, and the teachers would holler at me, and I didn't give a damn. I'm listening to my Dodgers. And then I'd run home, and, by the time I get home, these were all day games. They didn't have World Series games at night. They were all day games. So I'd get home about 3:30. I'd run home, and it'd be in the fifth inning or seventh inning or whatever it was, and I'd see the end of the game, and I watched as those Dodgers finally beat those damn Yankees. It was so exciting. After all those years.
When the final out was made and the Brooklyn Dodgers were declared World Series champions for 1955, what was the first thing you did?
The first thing I did was I jumped up and down, and then I wrote Jackie a letter. I was so excited. I wrote him a letter and congratulated him, and I was so excited because he had a big part in that World Series. He used to drive those pitchers crazy, Steve. He'd be on first base and he'd steal second. He stole home in the World Series against Yogi Berra. Still says he was out. He wasn't out. He was safe. Yeah. The umpire called him. Safe.
That famous picture where Yogi's jumping up and down. Yes, I remember.
Yeah. And, for many, many years, Rachel and Yogi became very dear friends. And every time Rachel would see Yogi, or he would see her, he'd say, out, and she'd say, safe.
Oh, God, that is
fun. Precious. Yeah.
Rachel was a strong say what?
She still is.
Him.
God bless her.
She still is.
Yeah.
Yes, God bless her. But at that time, when what he was going through,
Yeah.
she stood by him and was. Did she suffer any pressure on her end when they knew that she was his wife?
I think the biggest pressure she had was sitting in the stands, listening to all these catcalls, watching her husband being mean. And you remember, Steve, they didn't wear helmets in those days. It was just a baseball cap. There was no helmets. And those pitchers threw just as fast then as they do today. So it was seeing him mean, seeing him spikes, death threats, throwing black cats on the. I mean that was it took a toll on her too. And then remember she was from California, Steve. She never experienced the prejudice that Jackie did. She went to she lived in Pasadena. She went to UCLA. That's where she met Jackie. So when they first took this road trip to the Spurs' first spring training in Florida to go across the South like that, she had never experienced anything like this, And she actually, they were, I don't know where they were at this point in time, but they were on a flight or were supposed to be boarding a flight, and she had to go to the bathroom. And the bathroom said, whites only. Well, she didn't care. She went in. And the ticket agent saw this, and when she came out, they said, I'm sorry, we don't have seats for you. And they bumped them off the plane. They ended up taking a bus across the South because they bumped, and they said they don't have any seats. And then, in the meantime, they're still boarding, and there's still people going on the plane. And, I mean, she never saw anything like this before. So for her, it was really a shock. Yeah.
Yes. Let's talk about life after baseball for Jackie. Now,
sure.
Jackie once told Hank Aaron at the time that the game of baseball is great, but the greatest thing is what you do after your career is over. And now he retired at the age of 37, but he right after he did some things. He in '65 he served as an analyst for the Major League Baseball Game of the Week. He was the first African American to do so, and briefly he was hired as general manager for the Brooklyn Dodgers of the Continental Football League. That was probably quite an experience there.
Right. It was. Jackie always wanted to stay in baseball. I think that he would have loved to have been a manager. I know Branch Rickey once said that of all the candidates for managers, he would be the most qualified. And, of course, because of his color of his skin, he was neglected. I mean, and Jackie in Cincinnati on the 25th anniversary of his breaking the color line in baseball, he said, "Thank you very much, but I won't be happy till I see a manager as an African American or a African American general manager." And at that time, it hadn't happened yet. This was 8 days before he passed away. And he was in such bad shape, Steve. He was blind in one eye. He was going blind in the other eye. And he flipped the ball to a kid in the stands, and it hit the kid in the head because he couldn't see him. It was so sad. It was so sad. I mean, it wasn't hard, but he flipped it underhand. And it was so sad. I was with him 6 months before he died. And I'm telling you, when I got out of that cab to meet him, I was shocked. I knew his health had been deteriorating. but he had a heart attack. He was blind in one eye, going blind in the other. And I had to help him into this restaurant. And I felt so sad because I remembered him dancing up and down those bases, driving those pitchers crazy. And now I was helping him. And I had to take him by the arm and help him into this restaurant. It broke my heart. And he was so happy to see me. He wanted to hear all about my family, and I, of course, about his. And afterwards, I hailed him a cab, and I got him settled in the cab. And I leaned in, I kissed him on the cheek, and told him how much I loved him. And as that cab disappeared into space, I had tears running down my cheeks because I knew I'd never see him again. And he was such a great guy. I'll give you one more letter here if you like. Or
sure. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, here's what. Dear Ronnie, it was great hearing from you again. I hope everyone is fine at home. My family is fine. We had a nice summer, and with school just around the corner, we are getting prepared. You are very kind to say the nice things you did. I learned a long time ago that a person must be true to himself if he is to succeed. He must be willing to stand by his principles, even at the possible loss of prestige. He must first learn to live with himself before he can hope to live with others. I have been fortunate. God has been good to me, and I intend to work as hard as I can to repay all the things people have done for me. I appreciate your friendship and feel as long as you set a worthwhile goal and head for it, you will do well. Continued good luck. Give my regards to the family. Always, Jackie. Isn't that beautiful? I mean, the wise advice. Isn't that great?
That is fantastic.
He was. Yeah.
This question is for both you and Ian. Now, in the first year of eligibility for the Baseball Hall of Fame in 1962, Jackie was actually elected on the first ballot, becoming the first African-American player inducted into the Cooperstown Museum there. Did the fact that he was elected on the first ballot, was that a surprise to either one of you, or did you think it would take years for him to get in? Well, start with Ian. Ian, what did you think?
You know, when you look at it, again, because of what Ronnie said, his off the field, stuff that happened, post his post playing career, when he was being voted in that year, Robinson encouraged voters to consider only his on-field qualifications. And I think he didn't believe he was going to get in, if you ask my honest opinion.
Really?
I agree with you. I agree with you. Yep. And I think you need 75% of the ballot to get in. And I think he only got 77%. So he just got in by the hair, and that was disappointing to me. I thought he should have had 90%, at least 95%. But he just barely got in.
He did encourage voters. Yeah, he did encourage voters to consider only his what he accomplished on the field, and not because of his color. And I guess what he did on the field pretty much outweighed the fact that he was African American.
Right, absolutely. And it was an honor. I called him that night. He had given me, in one of his phone letters, had given me his unlisted phone number in Stamford, Connecticut. And I called him that night, and he kind of chuckled. He said, "I thought I'd hear from you." And I told him how proud I was of him, and I congratulated him, and we had a nice visit. It was a great honor. And I think Rachel has done a lot Rachel has done a
She
lot
has.
to keep his legacy alive. Tremendous. She's a phenomenal lady. And I got news for you. She in her own right can hold. She's terrific. She's terrific. She's 95 years old. God bless her.
Oh my God!
You know,
Yes.
she started this Jackie Robinson Foundation the year after he passed away. It's a scholarship program for children of color and minorities to go to college. They have the greatest graduation rate of any scholarship program in the United States, 98%, which is way, way double the national average. And Jackie would have been so proud because it's incredible. It was such a great honor to him. And she's still going strong, God bless her. She's a little more feeble right now. She's not as strong as she used to be. But she's a magnificent lady. Just, I love her. She's almost like a second mom to me, I feel. Yeah. Yeah.
Now, in June,
she wrote
June
me a letter
4th,
here.
Oh, she did? Oh, let's hear this one. Oh, yeah.
Okay. Dear Ronnie, how wonderful to hear from you, and how delighted I am to learn that you enjoyed the movie 42. I am so happy to know that the years continue to be kind to you, and that you are now a proud grandfather of 8. Actually, at that time it was 8. Now it's 10. Periodically, I read articles that feature the very special relationship you had with Jack, and I am so happy that through the years, you've kept my husband's legacy alive. It has been so important to me to share Jack's story with a younger generation, and you've done so by sharing the letters that span so many years. I am so grateful. Love, Rachel. Isn't that beautiful?
That is beautiful.
Such a beautiful letter.
That is
beautiful. Just a beautiful letter.
Oh,
yeah.
That is fantastic. In June of 1972, Jackie's number 42 was retired, along with 2 of the greatest Dodgers in history and in all of baseball. Roy Campanella's number 39 and Sandy Koufax's 32.
32. Right.
Really great company. In fact, I think it was 2-3 years ago, when the Dodgers have their usual celebration on Jackie Robinson Day. Sandy Koufax is seen escorting Rachel out onto the field, and I said, man, that is a great, great moment.
That was great.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And
they loved each other. You know, it was, and it was, you know, when Sandy Koufax was a rookie, it was in 1955. When the Dodgers won the World Series. And I remember when he used to pitch, he'd be in the bullpen. He'd be a relief pitcher. And at first he was very wild. And they'd say, and here comes Sandy Koufax. And I'd kind of cringe because I wasn't sure if he's going to throw balls or strikes. He was pretty wild in those days. And boy, did he change out. Did he become something? One of the greatest ever.
I know.
And with a short career. A very short
career, believe me. He would have set all kind of pitching records, that's for sure.
Oh, my God.
You know.
Absolutely.
But definitely great. This question also is for the both you and Ian. Jackie Robinson as a businessman. He seemed to be the first of everything. He was the vice president of for personnel for Chock full of Nuts. He was the first African American to serve as vice president of a major American corporation, and continued his business career in so many different avenues in commerce and industry. What you consider him an inspiration for African Americans in today's business world, because he seemed to have some of the greatest success in life after baseball. What is your opinion on that? Let me start with Ian on this one. Your opinion, Ian.
Yeah, and you know something? I do believe that, and I'll tell you why. Because, he chaired the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, $1 Million Freedom Fund in 1957. He served on the organization's board until 1967. In 1964, he helped found, with Harlem businessman Dunbar McLaurin, the Freedom National Bank, which was a black-owned and operated commercial bank used in Harlem. He served as the bank's first chairman of the board, and then, of course, he established the Jackie Robinson Construction Company to build the housing for low-income families. So you're doing it in a time when it's very tumultuous, even with the rise of the movement, the civil rights movement, and even with the acts that were passed in the mid-1960s, it still was an era where Malcolm X was assassinated, Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated, so it lingered, the hatred for blacks in America, and as an inspiration for all this. Yeah, I do believe Jackie Robinson would be an inspiration for the younger generation today. And if Jackie would have started his career 2 decades after, I will tell you this. I've just done just finished my second book on Marvin Miller. He would have been at the Supreme Court rather than Kurt Flood. And he did testify, him and Hank Greenberg, because I think Jackie saw what Kurt Flood saw. And it not only applied to African Americans, it applied to every ball player. It was like slave labor. Yeah. You could be bought, sold, or traded, and it happened to Jackie.
It was like a slave. Yeah. Right. It was.
Okay, Ron, your opinion? So you agree
well, I
with
totally
Ian
agree with what Ian said. Totally. It's so true. And it was slave labor. And at those hearings, Kurt Flood, the only African American, or one of the only ones that supported him, was Jackie Robinson. And a lot of these other African American players didn't come around. It was very sad that he was standing up, and possibly he was going to lose his own career because of this for the betterment of others. And Jackie was one of the only ones that stood up and was there to support him. Amazing. And it's sad, too, that there wasn't more support, because all of these ball players, whether they're white or Latino or they're African American today, they're all benefiting from what Kurt Flood began. Absolutely. And Jackie was right there with him.
In your opinion, Ian and Ron, do you think he would have been excellent politician, congressman? Do you think he would do well in political office?
I think so. I think he would have. Absolutely. What do you think, Ian?
Well, me, again, you mentioned it earlier. In 1964, again, he knew he made a mistake by, supporting Nixon. When Kennedy, pushed forth the civil rights, he later praised Kennedy. Now, he was angered, Robinson, by the conservative Republican opposition to the Civil Rights Act of 64. And even though a higher percentage of Democrats voted against it, because, again, you got all the Southern Democrats who later became Southern Republicans, there was a little change. His candidate for the 64 election was Nelson Rockefeller. And what happened was,
that's right.
Jackie was there at the Republican National Convention. And they nominated a very conservative, very right-wing person in Barry Goldwater, and he could not believe the Republican Party would turn their backs on the African Americans, and he walked out of the 64 election. And I'll ask Ronnie after this if he said anything to Ronnie about it. He left it, and I'll quote him. He said, look, now he has a better understanding how it must have felt to be a Jew in Hitler's Germany. And I'll turn it over.
Wow.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Ronnie.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so true. And he did. He ended up supporting Hubert Humphrey. in that election. He was well. Actually, I mean, he supported Johnson, but he loved Hubert Humphrey because he understood how he stood for, equal rights for everybody. And of course, he did support Bobby Kennedy in 1968, and he did tell me after the 60 election that he made a mistake, that he was very disappointed in Nixon, and he admitted that he made a mistake. So he was able to admit if he was wrong, or he felt he was wrong.
Now let me ask.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this,
Ronnie.
You know, I share the same disease as Jackie Robinson. I have, diabetes, and I have it, just as bad as he did. Unfortunately for me today, they got all these new medicines that, I'm on 8 shots a day. People tell me, hey, it's good to see you up. 2 years ago in November, I almost had my foot cut off, and I died on the table for a couple of minutes, I was told. And let me ask you this. I've done some research on Jackie, and he always said he did not use insulin during his ball playing days. Did he ever mention that to you, Ronnie?
He did use it.
He did use it.
Later on. I think he was using pills at the time.
Yep.
I don't think he was using insulin as it's such, but I think in later years he did. He had to.
Later years he did, yeah. Because it's still unclear, because that's pretty much what got Robinson's attributes and his athleticism, because he had diabetes. And it was beginning to take a toll on him in his late 30s like it did on me.
With his eyes going blind.
Yeah, his eyes,
His eye was blind, and the other one was going blind. And I talked to Rachel one day, and she said, or I think it was Sharon that told me this, that had he lived a year or two longer, they might have had to amputate his legs.
Yeah.
That's how bad his diabetes was. So.
And I share the same thing.
Yes,
my
I know you do.
Yeah, my diabetes is just as bad as Jackie. And when I woke up, I said to the nurse, well, I would have beaten Jackie Robinson to the punch. He was 53. I would have been 46. That's how I would have went.
Thank God you didn't beat him.
They were able to salvage. But the thing is that with Jackie Robinson, his skills diminished in his late 30s, and my skills it's parallel. Because by 41, I'm not working in an office anymore. I was wheelchair bound for many years, as you know, until recently. And without the birth of this modern medicine that they have today, I would have been dead a long time ago. So I know what Jackie went through. And when you look at the pictures of Jackie at my age, at 46, 47, he's stark white. His skin is sagging. Diabetes just eats you up from the inside out.
It takes a horrible toll. Horrible toll.
And if that wasn't bad enough for Jackie, his son became a drug addict, and then died in a terrible automobile crash.
Yeah,
and
that's right.
He was very sick. He established a foundation for addicts and those who are affected by addiction, because he saw it from his own.
Yes, he did. Yeah,
that's what I tried to tell you, Steve. Jackie fought all his life.
Yeah, that is That is yes. Well, then one final question for the both of you, and I am. This is a great night for me as well. With Jackie Robinson Day coming up this weekend, what more do you feel can be done on that day, April 15th? What do you think should be Major League Baseball can do further in celebration of Jackie Robinson Day? Let me start with Ian.
First of all, I think what they should do is they should stamp out any kind of negativity, against African Americans. It surfaced its ugly heads up here in Boston last year when someone held a sign up, stuff like that. Yep. It's been going around. people say that Fenway Park is one of the most prejudiced places to play because they hear the epithets being thrown at them at the players and stuff. And although those people were, not allowed to come back, it still persists. Now, I don't get political. I never do on my Facebook page. But since the new president has come into office, anti-Semitism is on the rise, anti-African Americans are on the rise. This whole thing with Mexico, so you have prejudice against the Latino community. If there's one thing I want to see on Jackie Robinson Day is to stamp out modern prejudice.
Right.
Okay.
Amen.
Ron,
I feel the same
feel,
way.
Ron?
I feel the same way. And I think that I try and educate kids and adults about Jackie. And I think that Major League Baseball should do more of that, of what he was, what he meant, what he did. I think he was a champion. Martin Luther King once said that he was a sit-inner before there were sit-ins, and a freedom rider before there were freedom rides. And it's so true. He was the first.
And on that note, gentlemen, we are out of time, but this has been great. It is so good to have the both of you back on the show on this historic night, and it'll be a historic weekend coming up. And that's all I can say. It's great to have you two guys back on. And Ian, I know you have your show, Genesis, on the Comfortable Zone Network, and Ron, you continue to travel across the country, spreading the good word about Jackie, and
I do.
Continued success with both of you, and we definitely have you both back on the show down the road. And definitely, when your book comes out, you're definitely coming back. We're going to talk about it.
You got it. And I've been talking with Ronnie that maybe we'll get together and we'll publish his memoirs on Jackie as well. My publisher seems to be, and then we could come on and we can share the letters, we share the book, and hopefully we can go on speaking engagements and really teach what needs to be taught about history and what it's going to be today.
Absolutely.
All right.
It's more important today than ever. Diversity today is a huge topic. So, Steve, thank you for inviting me. Ian, it's always an honor to be on the show with you. I appreciate it.
Right. Okay, and the two of you take care, and God bless.
God bless you,
buddy. God bless you.
All right, take care. All right.
Thank you. Bye now.
Bye-bye. Source Nation baseball historians Ian Kahanowitz and Ron Rabinovitz in talking about the life and historic career of the legendary Hall of Famer Jackie Robinson. You baseball fans, remember Jackie Robinson Day, April 15th. All the major league players around the country will be wearing the number 42. All right? That is it for me. This was great, and Jackie was a great man. So I am done for tonight on this historic show. So until next week, as I always say, be good and be safe. Take care, everybody.
Get at me for beats, yo.